Happy Halloween, webcomiclings! Nope. Not gonna call you that. It's the internet's favorite time of year, so let's get festive, shall we? What? I'm on a time crunch! The cat ears are the best costume I've got. They're werewolf ears. For as long as I can remember, I've adored werewolves, for the same reason why I love Jekyll and Hyde stories and the Hulk. The angst that comes with having a side of yourself that does horrible things you'd never want to do, and you have no way to stop it from appearing is so juicy and fun to write. Like most authors, I thrive off of my OC's pain like some kind of ancient deity that must receive sacrifices to satiate its hunger, and my delicacy of choice is the fear of a loss of control. Yes, I'm terrified of getting drunk or high, why do you ask? Classically, that's the fear that werewolves come from. Werewolves are killer beasts that overcome the bodies of their hosts, seemingly innocent normally but ready to strike when the conditions are right. Their curse stems from a bite from a similarly raging werewolf. Hey, why is the Wikipedia page for rabies scrolling behind me? Over the years, though, werewolves have separated from their original myth, and as modern creators have played with the concept, they've twisted it into something new, and I, a werewolf enjoyer, have devoured these stories. Much like a no, that's too easy. The webcomic How to Be a Werewolf is a story that takes the myth of the werewolf and deconstructs it. Their interpretation of a werewolf is one that not only works to disprove the myth of the alpha wolf, but also takes a sympathetic look at the human-wolf dynamic happening inside the host of the curse. In this world, there are 3 major species of supernatural. Well, mostly supernatural. The first one is humans, who have no magic nor ability to tap into magic. I don't know why I wrote supernatural. The second one is witches. Witches don't have magic of their own, but they have the ability to borrow magic from the earth itself. And finally, werewolves, who have the innate magic that powers them, but it really only manifests in their ability to transform. This system of magic links together beautifully in a story about a witch who steals magic that werewolves generate. But, of course, we're here to talk about werewolf lore, not witch lore, so if you want more on that, you should read the comic. Wink. The way that creating a werewolf works in this world is magic as well. Depending on their ranking in the pack, a werewolf generates a certain amount of magic. If a werewolf is powerful enough, they can bite a human and inject magic inside of them. The soon-to-be werewolf's body experiences this rush of magic, and their body adapts to this influx of power by generating the same magic they just experienced. The magic spreads through their body, and eventually a new werewolf is born. Werewolves have the ability to transform whenever they like, however, they are still sensitive to the moon. On nights of the full moon, their magic production goes into overdrive, and unless they have full control of their abilities, they will partially transform. A werewolf is made of 2 halves of a consciousness, a human and a wolf. The human side is what you would expect. It's the side of the werewolf that represents the human. Duh. The wolf side is the side that comes out when a human transforms. It's treated a bit like a separate consciousness. The wolf side is more animalistic than a human. It's more likely to follow its base instincts, and because of this, it's less likely to repress emotions like fear and anger, which can lead to it being more violent than a human because, just like a scared dog, it resorts to teeth and claws when threatened. To have control of their transformation abilities, a werewolf needs to get in touch with both their human and wolf sides. They have to push aside their fears of what they may do and fully embrace their wolf. Resistance creates a scared and uncontrolled wolf, while embracing the wolf leads to a synced consciousness, able to make decisions in tandem with their 2 halves rather than dissolving into a panic when they transform. And let's talk about transformations. How to Be a Werewolf has 3 levels of transformation. Partial transformations are the most frequently seen one, and a sign of a werewolf with little to no control of their magic. Wolves in this form will have wolf-like ears and hands and slightly enhanced strength and senses. However, they're not nearly as powerful as they could be. The next step in the chain is their werewolf form. Werewolves in this series are hulking, top-heavy beings that can be bipedal or quadrupedal. These are the powerful forms that allow them to fight and roughhouse and fully use their werewolf abilities. They're much more animalistic and can't talk-ish. This form comes out during play or during fights, showcasing the similarity of the 2 actions to wolves. And the final and rarest form is the full wolf form. While this isn't a more powerful transformation, leaders of packs are able to turn into a wolf to show their harmony and power as a leader. It's a big deal when a werewolf shows this form. It is also the last form a werewolf will ever take. A werewolf's human side deteriorates much faster than their wolf side. The older the werewolf, the more wolf-like they become. Eventually, they'll lose themselves completely and transform into a wolf. These elderly wolves go off to live in the wild with other elders of their pack until their wolf side ages and dies as well. A horrifying concept to our main character Malaya, but seen as a normal part of life to her mentor figure Eli. I mentioned earlier that the pack structure of How to Be a Werewolf is a deliberate deconstruction of the idea of an alpha structure of wolf packs, something the author herself has proudly stated about her series on, I think it was either Blue Sky or Twitter. We'll see if I can actually find it, unlike with one of the tweets that I tried to reference in the last video. Unlike the brutal fight for dominance seen in captive wolves, wild wolf packs are just families. In How to Be a Werewolf, their packs follow this family structure. Usually, they consist entirely of relatives led by the head of the family. It's an inherited position, as we learn through Eli, who has been trained to become the alpha after his mother retires all his life. More than just a title, though, alphas have some abilities that lower-ranking wolves don't. Alphas generate more magic than other wolves, which is what allows them to turn into their full wolf form. This heightened level of magic means that alphas are the only member of a pack who can turn a human into a werewolf. They can also enthrall members of their pack, usually as a way to keep them calm during distressing situations. But it's a power that is easily abused, as we see multiple times in the story when corrupt alphas use it to instill obedience in their pack. Despite the name evoking wolves, a pack doesn't need to consist of only werewolves either. Malaya is an alpha even though her pack only consisted of her human family members for most of her life. And, just like a pack doesn't need other werewolves in it, packs don't have to be related. They can even be a found family. Our main character, Malaya's pack, for example, is an eclectic bunch. Her pack is her human family, the group of werewolves she rescues from an aforementioned power-stealing witch, and a few borrowed members from Eli's pack, including Eli after he got kicked out in a true show of werewolf bureaucracy. Just as expected of a series titled How to Be a Werewolf, this series focuses mainly on the world building and lore of what a werewolf is. This one comic is half the video because it gave me so much to work with. This comic rules, you guys gotta read it. Similarly to How to Be a Werewolf, Wilde Life takes a more sympathetic look at the concept of a werewolf. Rather than just wolves, many characters make references to animal people, implying that there's more than just wolves out there. Though our clearest look at what animal people are like is Clifford the Big Red Werewolf. In the world of Wilde Life, werewolves are not created, only born. Clifford has been a werewolf his entire life, though he gets his werewolf side from his missing father, and his mother has no idea about his abilities. Because of his absent father, Clifford's upbringing is very different from the average werewolf. Due to the condition being genetic, werewolves are, by default, born into a family of other werewolves where they roam in packs. Clifford himself is attacked by a pack of werewolves early on in the comic, though we aren't given too many details. The wolves say their kind is dying out. They're looking to gather the remaining werewolves in a smaller area in order to repopulate. Because we've only seen one pack, however, we don't know for certain that what they say or believe is true for most animal people. Like, for all we know, animal people are doing fine, and it's just this one pack that has a problem with their population, you know? We've only seen the one. Unless something's happened in the, year since I've read it. I'm letting pages build up. This pack looks down on humans, even though having werewolf children with humans is possible. Cliff is the proof of that. They could solve their population problem pretty easy. But, solving it by interacting with humans appears to be completely out of the question for them. They're all too happy to hunt down resident Just Some Guy Oscar for being a human and getting in their way, it seems. And, in turn, our resident witch, Eliza, has wards up around her house that activate when an animal person crosses them. Whatever their culture is like, it's clear that they are dangerous. And, apparently, a dangerous animal person is more common than one who isn't. Animal people can be spotted by their eyes. They're the one part of them that remains animalistic even when detransformed. They were the dead giveaway of who Clifford was to Eliza, allowing her to identify him from a distance. And Cliff's eyes are haunting. They're an unnatural gray that almost seems clear, and they shine in low light, showing off the night vision that implies he has, even in his human form. Animal people, when transformed, aren't anything particularly identifiable. They mostly turn into an average-looking animal. Clifford, however, is a redhead. That hair color carries into his wolf form, which does mean that if you have the right hair color as a human, your coat color will stand out from the other animals in that area, so just hope you don't have brown hair. Forgot my model doesn't have brown hair. I have brown hair. Animal people appear to have some enhanced strength as well. One of the werewolves chasing Oscar brags about her strength, and Clifford tears the head off a monster no problem later on in the series. Finally, there's no way I could make a video about all the werewolf lore without discussing the comic that caught the public's eye specifically because of its werewolf lore. Of the 3 webcomics in this video, After Dark has the most animalistic werewolves. Unlike Malaya and Clifford, who stay at least partially in control of their actions when in their wolf forms, the main character of After Dark, Drew, has to fight against the wolf inside of him. Otherwise he, well, tears the guts out of a bird, attacks multiple humans, and bites one, accidentally turning him into a werewolf as well and continuing the cycle of violence. Nights of the full moon are blank spots in Drew's memory. He wakes up covered in blood and gore and sometimes injured himself with no memory of what happened or whose blood is on him. In a new town, friendless and unable to ask for help, he has to resort to chaining himself up to prevent himself from hurting those around him. The classic werewolf experience. I really wanted to talk about this series specifically because I wanted a more violent werewolf in the mix. I love the classic werewolf experience. Werewolves are unable to stop their transformation during the full moon, but they can transform at any time provided their control or anxiety levels are high enough. Drew has to make a concerted effort to not obviously wolf out well in public. Where the story left off, we were starting to learn about what being a werewolf is like mentally. The local pack let us into their philosophy about learning to control their wolf side. Similarly to how to be a werewolf, the more a werewolf fights the transformation, the worse they're able to control their actions under it, and the more dangerous they become. The full extent of learning to control the transformation hasn't been explored yet, so whether or not Drew will ever be able to control himself during the full moon hasn't been addressed. He was, however, able to fully transform without losing control of himself. Sort of. The trauma took hold of him that time. After Dark is a horror comic, and you can tell by the sheer uncanny valley nature of the werewolves in the comic. They have wolf heads and tails, but their arms are long, clearly allowing that same bipedal or quadrupedal walk of how to be a werewolf. This arm length, however, is way more acute and way more uncanny. The most terrifying part of their transformation is their furless and nearly human hands. These hands do so much work in making the creepier scenes of the comic downright bone-chilling. These are also the most clearly wolf-like werewolves of the 3 series. When scared or hungry, Drew attacks, but the second he gets scared off or hits a roadblock, he becomes passive. He drinks some water, he pouts, and he takes a nap until the daytime. He doesn't really have any sort of motivation besides getting food in his wolf form, and just like Drew's only friend says, anyone who gets attacked by him is generally provoked first. This humanity in the monstrous is something every single one of these comics shares. No matter how deadly or terrifying the wolves are meant to seem, none of them are wholly evil beings. If you treat them kindly, they'll return the favor, and if you scare them, they become aggressive. However, despite the initial similarities, these wolves are all completely different from each other. How to Be a Werewolf's wolves look like After Dark's, but their condition affects their behavior about as much as the wolves in Wilde Life. After Dark pulls on the monstrosity of werewolves more than either of the other 2, but Wilde Life does grapple with the innate danger of a being like a werewolf. And, most fascinatingly, all 3 of these stories dismiss the Alpha-Omega wolf pack structure outright. While we didn't see much of After Dark's packs, there's an allusion to the found family aspect in the one we did get to meet. How to Be a Werewolf is practically founded on the idea of refuting the stereotypical structure, and Wilde Life's packs seem to act as a collective group with no clear leader. The reason why I made this video is I find the ways that people can interpret the same folklore so wildly differently fascinating. The weaknesses that the authors decide to keep or throw out, the rules that are moldable based on what helps tell the story best. Anything like that shows what the author values and what their work is trying to say. Found family is important for How to Be a Werewolf. Processing a grief that feels like it controls you is important for After Dark, and facing the sides of yourself you may not like is a constant theme of Wilde Life. For each of these stories, their lore is made to enhance their themes. Even in a story like Wilde Life, where Clifford isn't even the main character, his arc still echoes Oscar's in a way. So, you know, the next time you decide to draw upon a famous piece of folklore or mythology for your stories, think about how you can make it work for you. Even your world building is important for getting your theme across. And hey, thanks for watching! I forgot to write an outro for my last video, so hi, I'm Book. I've been a webcomic author for 10 years now, and my biggest pain is how few videos appreciating comics there are on YouTube. They're like, all tutorials. I don't need tutorials. I've been making comics for 10 years. So I'm here to fix that. I hope you all like this. On top of video essays, I want to talk a bit more about the art process and just kind of appreciate the work that goes into making comics. So yeah, subscribe for more. I have a few more ideas and I want to get at least one video out a month. Please, please, please read all 3 comics shown here. How to Be a Werewolf and Wilde Life are hosted on their own websites, and After Dark is a Webtoon original. Was a Webtoon original. I love Webtoon. All 3 of those links will be in the description below. Also, do check out my model artist, LovesickLychee. If you really like my model, they actually sell this one as a Your Character Here, so you can literally just get this model. And also my character designer, bkomei, who designed the first iteration of my persona and then helped brush her up for this rebrand. They're lovely artists and they deserve as much love as you can give them. Those links will also be in the description. Please, please use the links in the description. I had to submit my freaking face to Google's stupid AI database specifically to have the clickable links, and I'm not happy about it. I feel extremely violated, and I would really appreciate it if all that work that all that sacrifice I just did to get those links wasn't a waste. Please, please. Read more webcomics, and I'll see you next time. Maybe I'll try a non-analysis video next.